So you guys can see that today I'm wearing green, but I'm wearing green because I'm going to be making ladyfingers, or some people know it as okra, or some people know it as bindi. So stay tuned and watch me make Bengali version of sauteed okra, which we call okra bhaji. As always, we're gonna start off with prep. You can see that I grab one whole onion, and that's a yellow onion, and then I end up peeling it, and once I do peel it, I cut it into thin slices. While I'm cooking, I always like to make sure my work area is clean because I hate having a mess after, so you'll see that I'm throwing away the peels in the garbage. Once I do finish cutting, I then transfer it to a little bowl just to keep myself organized. The next ingredient that we're going to grab is the most important ingredient, which is the okra. The amount of okra that I have is about 3 pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting it just like this. Keep in mind though that I washed it first before I start cutting it. You'll see that I'm actually not cutting it one by one, and honestly that's because I just don't have the patience to, so I just line them up next to each other and cut them simultaneously. And then I grab the next bunch and then I do the same thing. I actually hate cutting okra because I don't know why, but my hands get super itchy as I'm cutting it. As you can see, I grab a few, I cut it, and then I transfer it over to a bowl. By the way, keep in mind the cutting board does get a little sticky just because the okra does have a sticky consistency once you do cut it. Once I keep the okra aside, I then grab a pan, and my pan is about 10 to 11 inches. I then grab olive oil and add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and then on medium heat, I wait for the oil to heat up. Once the oil does heat up, I then add my onions that I cut before, and then I add it directly into the pan. I then saute it for a little bit until it turns translucent and it turns softer. Once it does, I then grab 2 teaspoons of garlic paste and I mix it all together. Once it does mix a little well and then the onions get soft, I'm then going to grab my spices. So I add half a teaspoon of cumin, and then I also add half a teaspoon of coriander, and then I also add half a teaspoon of turmeric. I also add in 3 green peppers, and you can do this according to your spice level. I actually didn't show this when I was prepping the onions and the okra just because I cut the ends of it and then added it, so it wasn't something that was a long process. I then mix that together, and then you'll see I grab 1 teaspoon of salt. After I add the salt in, I mix everything together again, and then you'll notice that I start adding in water. So I add in 1 tablespoon of water at first, and then I mix that together, and then I add another tablespoon of water again. The reason I did this is because I don't want the spices to stick to the bottom of the pan, and I also don't want to burn the onions or the curry. I then add in another teaspoon of salt, and that's because I like when the onions get salted and then the vegetable also gets salted. So you're gonna see once I add the salt in, I then add my okra. Now there's a method to the okra. So once you do add it in, you're gonna see that I'm not actually using my utensil first to saute everything. I kind of shake the pan. And the reason I carefully do this is because okra has seeds inside and you don't want all the seeds to fall out. And you also don't want the okra to be a mushy mess. Unless you like it that way, no judgment. But once I do kind of shake the pan and saute it very gently with my utensil, I then add a teaspoon of salt. I then shake it up a little bit and then I add my cover on top. Once I do add my cover, you're gonna see after about 15 minutes that the okra turn into an olive green color, which is exactly what you want. Don't get scared by the color. It's not burnt. The texture of it should be soft. Your okra shouldn't still be hard and it shouldn't be that bright green that you started off with. You can see I brought the okra closer to see exactly what I was describing. Finally, we can enjoy. I personally enjoy this with some rice. So we're finally back, and the best thing about this is that it requires little to no prep, and on top of that, all you have to do is get the okra from the grocery store. I like the fact that it's not something that I have to marinate, and on top of that, it's so flavorful. Thank you, and don't forget to like and subscribe.